Nason knows that Ellenberger is cooperating or is planning on cooperating. He hasn't done anything yet, but he's planning on cooperating, and he's going to give up. He's going to give up Arya and several other people. Nason feels really pissed off about that. There's a lot of other stuff. Ellenberger's kind of, at this point, he's just kind of a jerk to everybody. Yeah. He's entitlement issues. He's short man complex, the whole
douchebag.
thing.
Yeah.
So Nason ends up going to this club where Rossini's dancing with his girl. He comes up. He's like, that motherfucker, I'm going to fucking beat his ass. He's like, shit, I'm going to fucking kill this motherfucker. And he's like, bro, I'm with my girl. What are you doing? He's like, we'll talk about it later. He's like, fuck this motherfucker. So he leaves. So he walks in. Ellenberger's dead. He's laying in the middle of the bedroom, one of the bedrooms, dead. He said his neck was twisted in a way that he said as soon as I saw it was like very unnatural the way he said. I was like, immediately I knew, oh my God, he's dead. He's like, I tried to fucking wake him up. Are you okay? He's like, but immediately I realized he's dead.
Yeah.
So he immediately calls Farchione.
First thing
calls Farchione because he's got a dead body. His best friend is dead in his meth lab. I can't call the police.
Right.
I have a life sentence in meth.
Yeah.
Right here. Not to mention the money and everything else. Can't call the police. That's not an option.
No.
So he ends up calling. So he calls Farchione. Farchione apparently he said it sounded like he already knew what was going on. Yeah. Come to find out later, of course, Nason Nason says they got into a fight. This is one of many versions Nason has said, by the way. So they got into a fight, and he ended up breaking his neck. He said, but it was probably broken. He said, but he
strangled him, snapped his neck.
Snapped his neck. He probably got him in a headlock, snapped his neck, whatever it was. He killed him. So Pete doesn't know what to do. So yeah, we've got phone records of all of these guys calling each other back and forth.
Right after they found Ellenberger dead.
Right. We got Arya's pager.
You have the records of them calling Farchione.
Calling Barrero, where Barrero calls.
Do they have a direct line to Barrero?
Oh yeah, you can call. Pete's directly called the task force.
Oh God,
and talked to him for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So if Barrero's like, well, I've never spoken to that guy. He's called you 5 fucking times in the last 2 weeks. He didn't talk to you for 30 seconds.
So we have phone records right after you found your best friend, fucking crystal meth dealer, dead. You called an FBI agent right after that.
Right.
You have records of that.
Yeah. These are the records. Arya's pager, Farchione's pager, Barrero's pager. But if you keep going, Barrero's office at B&E right here. That's these right here.
Okay.
And they have the duration. This was 12 minutes, 22 minutes. Anyway, okay. So and this goes on and on because the reason this is important is that basically when the homicides start to get investigated and there's a link to the actual agents, these guys tell the homicide detective, oh, we haven't talked to him in months. No, it's been 4 or 5 months. We haven't talked to him since we saw him in Vegas or wherever. No.
Bullshit. I got phone records.
Well, keep in mind too, later you're going to realize everybody blames Rossini. First they all say he shot him. He shot Ellenberger. Ellenberger was never shot.
Right.
Everybody, even when they eventually get the guy, and all the documents say shot. All the guys are saying, no, he shot him.
But they never found the body, so how would they know?
No, well, because when Nason pleads guilty,
he
says, I choked him to death. Why would you say that?
Nathan said he choked him.
Nathan says he personally choked him to death. Remember, we know he broke his neck, right? We know he choked him to death. So ultimately, though, I mean, even though everybody points at Rossini, when ultimately Nason finally says, yes, I killed him, they say, okay, well, what'd you shoot him with? Where's the body? He goes, no, I didn't shoot him. I choked him to death. Same thing Rossini's been saying the whole time. He wasn't shot. He was choked to death. Well, the only reason I keep harping on it is because later the government's like, it's all bullshit. No, they're not dirty agents. No, it's all bullshit. That's not true. Okay.
There's a lot of paperwork that points
a lot
to otherwise.
Of paperwork says otherwise. A lot of guys walking out of jail. A lot of cases getting busted. A lot of And why is Pete telling everybody this guy ripped me off and stole all my fucking money?
Check Barrero's bank account.
Right. So at some point he starts dealing with another guy named Lance Estees.
Okay.
All right.
And who is Lance Estees?
He's a drug dealer out of San Francisco.
Okay.
So Estees is works out all the time. He's a big guy, good looking guy. They're all fucking good looking guys. They're all driving Porsches and Ferraris, and it's ridiculous. The amount of money. I mean, they're superstars. They're all rock stars. They're all working out. It's like what would you do if you were making $100,000 a month and had nothing to do and tons of drugs and women? Be a maniac.
Yeah.
So these guys are maniacs.
Let alone you're in your early 20s.
Yeah. Right. So these guys are maniacs. So he explains what ends up happening is Lance Estees is dealing with Rossini, and he ends up getting busted. He and his best friend get busted. They get busted by the local task force. Well, when they get busted, they've heard about. They know Rossini. They've heard about this dirty agent, so they contact him, and Pete says to him, "Look, he can get rid of your case for $100,000." So Lance is cocky, and Estes is cocky, and he's like, I'll give you $50,000 up front, but I want to meet this motherfucker. He's a fucking tough guy. Mm-hmm. So they go and they meet, and he meets them, and he meets Farcione, and Barrero's across the street. It's never confirmed that Barrero's across the street, but we know from several different reports that there was a guy, there was an FBI, there was someone across the street. We assume it's Barrero.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he ends up telling him, he ends up pulling a gun on Estes, because Estes kind of gets in his face, and he pulls out his badge and sticks a gun in his face. He goes, "Motherfucker," he says, I'll put a bullet in you right now, and I'll put this piece on you. He goes, "You see my partner over there? He'll say he saw the whole thing. You pulled it on me, and I fucking killed you. Now back your fucking ass up." So he's like, oh. So he realizes, okay, he's definitely an agent. He's got this guy over here. He's got this. Mm-hmm. He's got the badge. I'm done. So he's like, this guy's for real. So they set up a time. They give him $50,000. They meet at a hotel or a motel. They meet at a motel. Give him $50,000. He gets a room here. He gets a room here. They meet here. They come down. They give the thing. It's a whole fucking spy thing.
Right. Yeah.
So they give him $50,000. And these are reports of the guys talking about how Lance or Estes told him that he had given $50,000 in cash to Rossini, and that the money was a down payment and was going to blah, blah. So this is him telling one of his buddies, I gave the money to down payment to get my case quashed.
Okay.
So we're good. I just paid $50,000 down. We're going to get it taken care of. What he doesn't realize is that the guy he's telling, which is his best friend, is already gone to the authorities and said, I know we're supposed to be working with you, but my buddy's still selling drugs, and he's now dealing with that dirty FBI agent. So he's now double-crossed him.
Yeah.
So now the authorities are like, whoa, you double-crossed us, but you're in bed with an FBI or some FBI agent you just gave $50,000 to. So that helps. So
did he get his case squashed? Did he end up paying him the full $100,000 and getting that whole thing taken care of?
He does give him $100,000, but what ends up happening is, I mentioned that Lance with this. Yeah. This is his girlfriend, by the way. So this is Lance Estees' girlfriend, which is Monica Trejo.
Okay.
And she tells a grand jury later, you mentioned that Lance had met with this supposed FBI agent or whatever to get him off, and he was convinced by credentials. And she says, by credentials, did he see a badge? And she says, yeah, he saw a badge.
Okay.
Boom. Gave him the money, got the money. There's a dispute with Estes. I'll try and start start cutting through it.
Yeah.
There's a dispute with Estes.
Okay.
Between Farcione and Estes. Estes basically tries to back out. It filters down to Barrero and Farcione that Estes has told somebody, and they know he's dealing with it. He just gave somebody $50,000 for a dirty agent. So fuck. So they say the deal's off. They get into a huge argument. Rossini puts it back together. He says, okay, now it's another $100,000. So give him 50. He's like, okay. So I think he gives him another 50, and then he's going to give him the last 50. So there's a huge dispute where they have a meeting, and Rossini's at the meeting. Harrison's at the meeting. Farcione shows up. Farcione said, Harrison's saying, let's just kill this guy. Farcione says...
Talking about who? Let's just kill him.
Talking about Estes. He's saying, let's just kill him. Because he's now talking about testifying against Farcione and Barrero. So he basically says, let's just kill him. And Rossini's trying to talk him out of it. He goes to Farcione. Farcione says, okay, kill him. if he doesn't bring the money, kill him. But don't kill him in San Francisco, because he lives in San Francisco. Kill him here. Because Harrison's talking about going to San Francisco, going to his house, killing him, and killing his girlfriend if she's
Jesus.
there. Rossini's saying, because Rossini's like, what if his girlfriend's there? And he's, well, she has to die too. He's like, nah. And Farcione goes, no, bring him up here. If he doesn't have the money, kill him. Because if he doesn't bring the cash, kill him.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, no problem. So he flies up. He shows up.
He flies down from San Francisco to L.A.
Yeah, from San Francisco to L.A.
Okay.
They're all going to meet. He's supposed to bring the money. He says he's got the money. Pete thinks he's got the money. Rossini thinks he's got the money. Rossini's saying he's got the money. Everything's going to be okay. He's going to give him the money. It's good. He gets there. They pick him up. Wayne picks him up. They walk inside. Everything seems like it's going to be okay. He walks into the kitchen. Wayne pulls a pistol out and shoots him in the back of the head. Boom.
Estees is dead.
Estees is dead. Eventually, Pete ends up getting busted. He gets arrested for something stupid. And before they can get him out of jail, before Farcione and Barrera can get him out of jail, he gets ID'd, and Agent Alapa flies in from Hawaii and tries to interview him. And so she tries to interview him, and Rossini states, to the agent Alapa that he had nothing to say to her. He wasn't going to speak to the government. He wanted.
He was certain that Farcione was going to take care of it.
He was 100% sure. Keep in mind, they show up first. If you're smart and you're guilty and you're looking at a lot of time, you better cooperate. You're not beating this in trial.
Yeah.
Not with these kind of numbers, not with these kinds of people, not with this amount of people. Everybody around him is getting busted.
Yeah.
He's been indicted in multiple jurisdictions. You're just done. You better expect to fucking either die in prison or come out when you're in your 60s.
Yeah.
So, or you cooperate. He tells her basically, kiss my ass, I'm good. Because he knows
he's got to get out of jail.
He's got all them guys.
my boys are going to get me out.
Right.
They always
cost
do.
me $100,000. I'm sitting on millions in
Yeah.
cash. I'm good. Well, so a lot of time goes by.
Kick rocks, lady.
Yeah, some time goes by, and he's getting phone calls from Reza. He's getting calls from Aria. He's talking to guys on the phone. I don't know if it's Aria he was talking to. Was it Reza? He's talking to people on the phone. The people are answering his phone calls, and everybody's telling him, hang tight, they're working on it. Well, eventually, he comes to the conclusion after a few months.
Yeah. Nobody's working on it.
Yeah. He gets a new attorney, comes in. He tells the attorney what's going on, but so he's like, just hold it off. I'm going to get this whole thing quashed. The new attorney's like, are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
What do you mean you got dirty agents? He goes, let me go tell the U.S. attorney. He's like, no, they're going to get this whole thing quashed. They've got me knocked out of jail. They've had me released a couple of times now. I'm good. They have my buddy let go. I'm good. They're like, you're fucking crazy. Well, weeks and weeks and weeks and months go by.
Fuck.
And he starts to realize, oh, fuck, I'm done.
Yeah.
So he says, so finally he comes to the conclusion, okay, I got a real problem here. Nobody is answering his phone anymore, by the way. They stop answering his phone. So when everybody stops answering your phone, you get a little desperate.
Yeah.
So he gets a little flipped out, and he's like, fuck. He realizes he's done.
Right.
Other guys are getting busted. Guys are coming in the prison in there. So he says, okay, fuck it. And he contacts his attorney. He says, okay, I'll cooperate.
Yeah.
I can cooperate against some dirty FBI agents. Well, they come in and they say, no, we're not interested. You can plead to a life sentence, and that's it. He said, and then we'll talk about it. He's like, oh, you're crazy. What happens is it filters down through all the U.S. attorneys and everything to Barrera and Farcione finds out, and Barrera find out that he's talking about cooperating against dirty law enforcement. So Farcione calls everybody together. He calls, the guys that I'm trying not to use too many names. He calls
everybody.
Everybody. Meacham. He calls this guy. He calls that guy. So whoa. He calls everybody together, and they all meet. Harrison. They all meet.
Everybody involved.
Nason.
Even Nason, who killed Ellenberger.
Killed Ellenberger. Harrison killed Estees. Nason killed Ellenberger. Calls everybody together. The whole crew.
Family powwow.
Right. All right. This is John Alonzo talking about how, well, wait, you know what? Is it better? It's better like this because this is the one Okay. He meets at his girlfriend's house, right? His girlfriend's name is Odalis Melendez. So everybody meets there. She's in her bedroom while these guys are all meeting. There's several meetings, but there's one meeting in particular she talks about where she talks about how everybody got together. She knows everybody except for this one guy named John something, another friend of Rossini's in L.A. She says he's from Beverly Hills. Well, Pete says that's got to be Aria. It's the only guy he knew that was a friend that lived in that area. So he's like, he probably came in and just said his name's John. He's assuming that's Aria. So right, L.A. near Beverly Hills, Aria. So, and this is Alonzo. So she names all these guys, and she can hear them discussing Rossini. She hears them talking about Rossini. So they're talking about like, well, how do you think Rossini killed these guys? Keep in mind the two guys
that actually
killed him are in the room. So she's not quite hearing. She's hearing bits and pieces. Well, when they leave there, by the way, one of the people that shows up, I told you, is Farchione. Farchione shows up. He has his little meeting. And in the meeting, and this is Exhibit 50. By the end of that meeting, everybody has agreed that Rossini committed the murders. He killed both guys. So Farchione goes in and says, there are homicide detectives investigating. They're wanting to talk to people. They're going to be talking to you guys. They're going to find you. They're going to talk to you. When they do, you just need to tell them Rossini. You don't have to tell them that you necessarily saw it, but Rossini or you heard or whatever. We need to point to Rossini. He's right now trying to get us fucked up. We get fucked up, I guarantee you, you guys are all getting life sentences.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, they still think he's an FBI agent. So we're telling you right now, Rossini shot him. That's what happened. He shot him. He helped dispose of the body. He shot him, disposed of the body. That's what you're going to go with. They said, okay, cool. So everybody says, okay. So immediately when these guys get interviewed, they immediately all start saying that, keep in mind, Pete didn't have a gun.
Yeah.
Pete said, I've never had. He goes, I had a gun one time. He's like, it was like a, you see, like I'm saying, he's not a gun guy.
Right. Yeah.
He is at that level dealing with those guys. You don't really bring guns.
Yeah.
When you show up with 50 kilos of ice or something, you don't bring a gun because you're just in that much more trouble. You're probably already dead. It's usually you're dealing with. You don't deal with people that you need to bring a gun.
Right.
So, anyway, this guy talks about how he heard rumors that Pete killed him, that the guy owed him money, so Pete killed him. What kind of gun did Pete have? Did Pete have a gun? Yeah, Pete had a gun. Pete had a 9mm, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so he talks about that. This is one guy. This is Alonzo says that. Let's see. So then eventually, and I'm going to fast forward this because, oh yeah, so this guy, Odessa Melinda, she says again that Harrison said that he had dealt with the cleanup of the body. He admits that he cleaned up, but he says Rossini killed him.
Like, why and at what point did they go to law enforcement and say that Pete killed these people?
They didn't go. They know that law enforcement's showing up. At some point,
question them.
Homicide detectives are leaving cards on your thing. You come home one day, they're sitting outside your house. They start getting picked up. They get
mainly about Estees.
Huh? Right, about Estees, because Ellenberger's,
no one knew what happened to Ellenberger.
Right. Well, they kind of know, but they don't know. It's just rumors.
They found the body of Estees, so that's.
So this guy here says he says that Ellenberger, they called Ellenberger Beetle, by the way. So it says, Beetle in Beetle's room. He says that after Pete killed him, he saw the blood stains. There was no blood stains. He had his neck broken.
Right.
So there was a huge pool of blood from the gunshot wound that didn't actually happen. So all these guys start failing polygraphs, by the way.
So the story's falling apart.
Right. Harrison, who shot Estes, says that Pete did it. Pete did it. Gunshot wound, in the head. This is footnotes. Is that 87 and 70 talk about it. So, I mean, see, the thing is that I could go fucking on and on and on. Anyway, ultimately, Nason ends up filing some paperwork, and in the paperwork, Pete gets the paperwork. You have to understand when you know, the cases are long, so you learn things slowly. People aren't talking to each other, but if I can read your paperwork, it helps give insight into what happened in my case. So Nason eventually files paperwork where he explains about getting paid $30,000 from Aria. He says for a drug transaction. Pete says that's not possible because we were the ones who were supplying all the drugs. I would know if he was selling drugs, but whatever. The other thing is, he says that he was called to a meeting at Wayne Harris's girlfriend's house named Odalis Melendez, and that there was a whole bunch of people there, and that and he names them off. You know, John Alonzo, this guy, Dean Zurich or something, George Merzik, Mark Farcione was there, Wayne Harrison, bunch of guys were there, and that he says specifically, Farcione said that Rossini was cooperating. He was an ungrateful bastard, I think, somewhere they say this, and that they need to put the murders off on him. And Nason came there with like with three of his cousins. He shows up with his three cousins. So they're all there while this discussion's going on. And Mark Farcione tells them that they have to put everything off on Rossini. Rossini killed him. Rossini shot him in the head, blah, blah, blah. Tells them all, same thing that Melendez says. Same thing other guys say. There was multiple meetings. And Nason gets so upset about it. He doesn't like the idea of framing. Remember, he didn't like the cooperation thing either. He didn't like Ellenberger was cooperating.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the fact that now these guys are saying, we're going to put it off on Rossini when he knows Rossini didn't do it.
Right.
But they're saying, look, you too, though. That gets you off.
This guy's too honest.
Right, he is, yeah. He's the kind of guy that
He's the opposite of Shrinker.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that ends up doing 25 years for being so honest. So, by the way, this is when Robert Mueller comes into the picture.
Okay.
So Mueller, there was something called, there was a Sapricha prong. There was this guy that ends up, there's a whole thing about dirty agents in this office. So Mueller comes in to kind of clean up the office. The Department of Justice says, look, Mueller, we're going to send you over there to clean it up. So Mueller comes in, he fires a bunch of people.
Now, meanwhile, there's multiple cases like this going on where there's dirty agents
throughout the whole United States, but even in this area, in his jurisdiction.
Okay.
But they're in New York. They're in Whitey Bulger is happening at this time.
Okay.
Whitey Bulger's bribing an FBI agent, I think Agent Connolly or something like that. So you know, this is happening in multiple jurisdictions. The Department of Justice,
and this is during Mueller's reign. The whole Whitey Bulger thing
that's also during.
That was all investigated by Mueller.
Mueller was the one of the assistant U.S. attorneys, or he was in charge of the task force, one of the task force that was investigating Bulger. So he was involved in that, but you know, he's way up here, and he just happened to be one of the many guys in the chain. I don't think he necessarily had anything super to do with it. There were allegations, but you know, who knows?
Right.
Listen, I can only solve one thing at a time. So what ends up happening is,
let's eat this elephant one spoon at a time.
One spoonful at a time. So this guy. Okay, so this is a document where Mueller comes in and they start asking for evidence. So now they've arrested Harrison. They've arrested Wayne Harrison, the guy who killed Estees,
right?
And they've arrested Frank Nason. So Nason's been arrested. Harrison's been arrested. They are kind of joining forces, and they're saying, look. They're going with what's called a public authority defense, wherein they say, we thought we had authority to do what we were doing. And initially, keep in mind, at this point, they failed their polygraph exams.
Yeah.
Everybody's failed. Some of these guys failed like 3 of them. Okay, if you go on the website, you'll see I've got one after another.
Yeah.
The story keeps changing. So they're like, no, so-and-so, Pete killed him.
Yeah.
Okay, then it's, okay, no, Pete didn't kill him. Harrison killed him. I saw the blood. No, I didn't see the blood. No, he killed him. No, this. No, this. So they keep changing. Every time they fail it, eventually they come clean there, and basically as clean as they can.
Yeah.
Harrison killed him, but it was Rossini who ordered it. Can't say the FBI. We can't say the FBI ordered it, because that would be a major fucking problem for us.
Yeah.
We've already been told. So It's somebody. And why would you say anybody ordered it? Well, you have to say somebody, because if I'm Harrison and I say I killed him, well, why'd you kill him?
Right. Somebody told me to.
Somebody told me to kill him.
Yeah.
It's better for me to say that Danny told me to do it, because then I get to cooperate against Danny.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really want me, because I wouldn't have killed him on my own.
Right.
Danny did it.
Right. You got a card to play.
Right. So that's what happens is they all start pointing at Rossini. So he is putting together a case. So he goes to Rossini. Keep in mind, at this point, they've now focused in on Rossini. We've got all these people saying Rossini did it. They're all willing to testify. We got like 8 guys ready to say Rossini did it in some form or fashion. We're talking about this guy saw blood, this guy did this guy did that, this guy's got a gun. Everybody's saying he did it. Pete knows he's screwed. So bad it becomes a capital case. They actually have a small, like a little trial kind of thing. They go to Washington. Pete's attorneys go to Washington. They have a little trial to decide in front of, I think, Janet Reno, to try and fight or try and figure out, can we kill Pete if we find him guilty? Can we execute him?
Right.
And they say, so Pete's lawyers lose that, and they say, yeah, if you can prove all this and he gets found guilty, he's going to be executed. So now you're on death row. You're one of the first people on death row. The other people that were on death row at that time, other than Rossini, it's it's the Unabomber, and it's Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber.
Jesus.
So Ted Kaczynski,
Yep.
Timothy McVeigh, Pete Rossini.
Oh my God.
Didn't fucking do it. Didn't
even do
kill
the
anybody.
murder. That's fucked.
Wow.
So what ends up happening is, and keep in mind, all the evidence they explain is that Pete killed him. He shot him with a gun. He didn't shoot anybody with a gun.
Yeah.
It'd be different if you went and said it was a conspiracy. You're telling these people I shot him.
Yeah.
And he loses. He's going to get executed. So, okay, so he comes back. Number of circumstances. Okay, so what happens is Mueller at this point, Pete pleads guilty. They go to Pete and they say, listen, he's trying to get him to plead like to a life sentence, first, and then they come back, and finally they go back and forth. The lawyers go back and forth with Mueller, back and forth, and what happens is Mueller says, look, here's what we'll do. Now, Pete knows all these motherfuckers are ready to testify against me,
right.
and I didn't do this.
Yeah.
So I'm pissed. So that whole code thing, I'm ready to cut everybody's throat.
Yeah.
Right. So Mueller says, listen, here's what I want to do. Mueller knows this dirty FBI agent's involved. But he comes in and says, look, here's what we'll do. We have Rossini plead guilty to 40 years, and I'll allow him to cooperate against these other guys, and we'll get his sentence cut significantly.
Mueller says that.
Mueller says that to Pete's attorney. Takes a lot of convincing, but Pete's like, I don't have a prayer. My parents come in. They're like, look, what are you going to do? The guy, come on. These guys are guilty or not. You're going to be found guilty.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in anybody's mind.
It's on you.
Yeah. So Pete says, okay, goes to trial. He pleads guilty to 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder in the furtherance of a drug conspiracy. He goes to Leavenworth. A few months later, Mueller shows up with this guy, Bruce Burrows, right? Mm-hmm. So he shows up with it, which is the FBI. He's over like the FBI. He's like one of the top dogs of the FBI. He's over the whole task force. These guys are all working for him. He knows them. Mm-hmm. They come in. They meet with Rossini. Mueller says, okay, these 2 guys are going to trial. I need you to you said you'd testify. And he goes, okay. Yeah, I'll testify. He goes, okay, well, let's talk about this. So they sit down and he says, okay, so when did you did you shoot him? He's like, no, I didn't shoot him. So you didn't shoot him. He's like, okay, but you told him to shoot him though, right? I didn't tell anybody to shoot anybody. What do you mean? He goes, you just pled guilty to conspiracy to commit. He's like, I pled guilty because you had like 6 or 8 guys that were going to say I pled guilty.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, you don't think I'm going to testify to that.
Right.
So he's like, well, what happened? So he explains what happened. Well, there was this dirty FBI agent. Mueller's been hearing this.
Yeah.
You've seen how many people are saying it.
Right.
There's a dirty FBI agent. There's this guy Farcione. Now Pete knows that the guy is not. At this point, Pete knows. Okay, well, Farcione is not an FBI agent. He's actually an informant, professional informant. So he says, okay, I got to take this out. That's hurting me. So he says, okay, no problem. So he goes, okay. He talks to him and he says, okay, so what happened? He said, I was paying him this, paying him that. He's like, what? They're both taking notes. Mueller's taking notes. Burrows is taking notes. Okay, so what happened? Okay, this. He's like, well, when did you do this? When did you? So everything he's telling him, Pete's unraveling his entire case. As Pete thinks he's helping to cooperate and tell Mueller what really happened, he's actually destroying Mueller's case.
Yeah.
Because Mueller had a very simple case.
Right
These
now
guys
it's all
were-
fucked up.
These guys were informants. Pete didn't like that. He was afraid they were going to inform on him. He told these guys to kill him. They both killed him. They got rid of the bodies. It's a pretty simple case. It has nothing to do with FBI agents.
Yeah. Right.
Mueller didn't want it to have anything to do with FBI agents. This guy's on the short list to become attorney general.
Yeah.
Okay? So he doesn't need this. He doesn't need this shitstorm that this would stir up. This is another Whitey Bulger. This is another shit. I forget the other guy's name. Anyway, there's like a Saprichaprong. This is another.
Saprichaprong. Yeah.
Right. This is another huge dirty agents. The whole thing blows up and his name's attached to it. He don't want that. I'm here to clean this place up.
Yeah.
So he says, okay. So he goes through the whole thing. And he starts explaining the whole thing. This meeting takes place over 3 days. Mueller actually leaves, goes back, comes back for 2 more days with Burroughs. They take notes, everything. Okay, he's telling them about dirty FBI agents, telling them about the murder, telling them about how it was ordered, telling them that Mark Farcione is the one who said to do it.
Yeah.
Not to do it in San Francisco. Do it here. Don't let them find the body. Got the $50,000. Tells them everything. So devastated Mueller's case.
Yeah.
He then says to Mueller, or Mueller then at the end of it, Mueller says, according to Pete, he shows him, Pete gives him, he's like, yeah, but these guys haven't talked to you in this long, whatever. What do you mean? They say they haven't talked to you. Pulls out the fucking records and says, really? Because I talked to him here. I talked to him. Pete has all the fucking phone records, more phone records of all these phone calls between these guys. Barrero's pager, Farcione's pager, this day.
Right.
Mueller's
Right
starting to
after the
realize-
murders.
Right after the murders, way past the murders, where these guys say they haven't talked to him in forever. So goes through the whole thing and then
Completely unraveled everything.
unravels everything. At some point, Mueller shows him a picture of Arya and asks him about Arya. And he's like, that's Arya. Mueller says, look, I'm bringing you back. I'm going to have you testify in front of the grand jury. We're going to indict these dirty FBI agents. Going to get your sentence reduced. And he signs an agreement with Pete. Well, he gives Pete an agreement, an ironclad agreement that says he will reduce his sentence.
Which never happens.
Never happens.
To no specific amount, just says he's going to reduce
Just
it.
says he's going to. Well, you can't tell what the judge is going. Like I can't tell you the judges. I could tell you I'm going to put in the motion. I'm going to put it in front of the judge, but I can't.
It's still
I don't
a
know.
judge's decision.
Judge could do 6 months. He could do
6
20
years.
years.
Right,
We don't
right.
know. Basically, they take all these notes and they create a 302, which is the official document, the official record for the FBI, which is supposed to be a clarification and condensed version of an interview. What's important.
Mm-hmm.
I just told you about dirty FBI agents, told you about payoffs, told you I did not order the murder of anybody or conspire to murder anybody.
Yeah.
They craft the 302. Doesn't say a fucking thing about
Oh,
payoffs. Doesn't say anything about dirty FBI agents. Doesn't say anything about him denying anything. So when you read the 302, it basically talks about drug transactions and talks about a murder, and it makes it sound almost like Pete might have been involved. Doesn't say he's like he ordered it, but it's close. It makes it sound like he's
part of it.
Part of it. So what happens is Mueller prepares a document, goes in to see Nason and Harrison, and he convinces them, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it's a whole thing where he basically goes in and says, look, I got a 302 here, and gives them the 302 and tells them all he's going to fucking testify against you. He's going to say that he did order the murders. These guys know he didn't order the murders.
Yeah.
So now he's flipping it on you. You go to there and start talking about dirty FBI agents ordering murders. Rossini's going to say he ordered the murder. How is that going to look? Like you're lying.
Yeah.
And that's, so that's what happens. So these guys end up taking a plea. They take a plea for 25 years apiece, knowing that because they're terrified that Rossini, because
Who? That's Harrison and all those
Harrison and Nason take a plea for 25 years for each murder. They both get 25 years because Mueller's telling them that Rossini is going to testify against you, and he is going to say
Which
that
is a
he
straight up lie.
straight up lie.
Right, so Mueller's just playing them.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're not allowed, and he's prepared a document that basically supports it.
Right.
When he finally gets him to plead guilty, and he talks to Nason, Nason says, "I choked him to death."
Why does he decide to say that all of a sudden?
Well, because he's pleading guilty anyway. He's like, "I didn't shoot him." Well, how did you kill him? Well, I mean, I killed him, but how'd you kill him? I choked him to death.
Oh shit,
He
that
just goes
lines
ahead-
up with fucking what Rossini said.
So now Mueller really knows Rossini told
Oh,
everything
Jesus.
this guy said
That
is
it
true.
was the truth.
That
yeah.
these FBI agents are dirty.
Right.
Everything is.
And he didn't order the murder.
Right. So, but they plead guilty. They get their 25 years.
Based
apiece.
on Mueller's lie.
Based on that, yeah. So I got the document here where he says, where Rossini, where Nason actually says at the direction of Rossini, that he killed him.
Yeah.
At Rossini's direction, and then within a few months or something like that, Mueller gets appointed to or nominated to be the FBI director. And I only bring this up because I believe that Mueller shifted the blame from the FBI to Rossini, right? I believe he shifted that blame. I believe he covered up. I think he didn't start the conspiracy, right? Mueller didn't start the conspiracy. The FBI, Blum, Barrero, and Farchione started the conspiracy. They got the guy murdered. They ended up starting getting everybody together to frame Rossini. They did that, but Mueller ran with the ball. He didn't turn around and do what he said he was going to do. He didn't indict these guys. He just kept it going because it was in his best.
Why do you think he really did that, though? Do you think it was somebody above him that was pressuring him, or do you think that was all in
I
just
think it was him. I think he's just this
personal career?
Of course.
Yeah, he wanted to look good, right?
I want to look
Wrap the
good. And
case up.
how bad is it going to look? Look, I'm going about my job. The moment I start saying dirty FBI agents, geez, people lose their jobs
Right.
left and right. These guys are retiring left and right. All these guys that were involved in Bulger's case and Salimi
It don't look good.
and all of these cases, it doesn't look good. These guys are immediately
So it's going to be a domino effect.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Cannot be involved in that. I'm about to be named Attorney General.
Right.
Turns
so
out
he
he's
wrapped
FBI
it up
director.
and didn't have to say anything
I got to
about
wrap
dirty
it up.
agents.
These guys got 25 years. They did commit the murder. They got 25 years. This guy Rossini, they're going to reduce his sentence. Who knows by how much? So he's kind. I'm sure he justified it very easily.
Yeah,
These are bad guys.
Yeah.
They're drug dealers.
Right.
Fuck them. They're not a U.S. attorney.
Right.
This is a top shelf guy.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what he does at his nomination, the nomination of Robert Mueller. I just love this quote. I just have to read this quote.
Yeah, read it for us.
This is a quote. One of the senators says, "Do you believe there is a culture problem within the bureau, the federal bureau?" He says, "I think it is," so they're talking about all of these problems the bureau has. So Mueller's answer is, "I think it is absolutely unacceptable to try to cover up and not disclose something that needs to be disclosed, and more importantly, or as importantly, it's unacceptable to try to shift blame to someone else." Wow.
Which is exactly what
Exactly
he just
what
did.
you just fucking did.
Right.
And when he puts his kind of like his resume, like all the things I've done, his last case,
This
one of his only homicide cases he's ever worked on, and a death penalty case, probably the only death penalty case he worked on. He uses Rossini's case. He says, "I handled with others the prosecution of 3 individuals for the killing of 2 persons whom they believed were cooperating with the federal narcotics investigation." So he actually uses Pete's case as
Part of his resume.
part of his resume. So after Mueller disappears, right, they assign a new guy. They assume this guy, David Hall. So Rossini puts in a motion immediately saying, "Hey, it's been fucking months and months and months. Mueller's a goddamn, he's just turned
Right.
FBI. Nobody's
The
talking to me.
director.
What's going on?" He puts in a motion to compel them to reduce his sentence. I'm done. So he says, so they respond by saying, so Hall's response to Rossini's, "Hey, I have an agreement with these guys." Of course, there's nothing in the file. And what he's saying is, "I have a guaranteed agreement." So Hall looked at that and said, "We don't give guaranteed agreements."
Right.
So he's lying. He writes, he even puts, "At no time was the defendant promised any deal or reduced sentence by the government officials interviewing him."
Huh. He's got to be so pissed off when he reads
But he's
that.
got proof. He has his copy of the agreement.
So Pete fucking's like, "What the fuck? Oh, hell no."
Yeah.
So he doesn't even file it, nothing. He mails it straight to the judge. He mails it straight to the judge. The judge who just read that gets this from Mueller stating that the government, this is after you agree to cooperate, The government, in turn, agrees to file a motion under Rule 35 for a federal rule of criminal procedure setting forth the extent and significance of your cooperation. Such a motion will be filed at the conclusion of your cooperation. He's done. He's done. You understand that the government's motion will set forth extended. So it goes on. So it's a guarantee.
Yeah.
A guarantee. He doesn't say substantial. Will consider. No. So he sends this to the judge, and the judge is like, "Oh hell no! Bring him back." So he'd bring him back. Wilson Leone, which is another one. Keep in mind, these guys got 5 attorneys working on his shit.
Yeah.
He's got like him.
Yeah.
And like maybe his parents like leverage their house and get him 1 attorney. So how are you doing that? How are you fighting that? Okay. So
Is Amadeo helping him at all or no?
no, Amadeo isn't around then.
Okay.
This is
way
back in 2000 and
Okay.
this is 2010.
Okay.
So he ends up. They come back and they say, yeah, we don't have any file. We don't have any records. We don't have any notes. All the notes were purged, and that's what it says here. It says basically it's a declaration saying that had no other documents or records related to the case, that they have everything. That's it. This is a declaration. Okay, this is them telling the government or the court, hey,
There's nothing else.
Nothing else to give them. Fuck them. That's it. Okay, fine. So then they go. So then Bruce Burroughs, remember Burroughs,
Yep.
who went and took the notes.
The guy who actually was taking the notes.
Right.
Yeah.
Burroughs comes and so they investigate, have Burroughs come back. So he comes back.
And this is just to clarify. These notes are when Burroughs and Mueller went to the penitentiary for 3 days to meet with Rossini.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Now, Mueller's notes we never find. They're gone. Mueller's pretty sharp.
Sure.
I mean, we don't keep around evidence that can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep in mind. So, they talk to Burroughs. This is his transcript, right? So Bruce Burroughs gets on the thing. They say records be clear. This is in reference to the three meetings with Mr. Mueller. Blah blah blah. He was. And then they asked basically, was he did corruption at all come up with Rossini? He says no. Did he ever mention anything about corruption? No. Never say anything about corruption. No corruption? No corruption. Did he ever disclaim any expressly disclaim any involvement in Ellenberger's murder? No. Did he ever expressly disclaim involvement in in Estees' murder? No. Okay. So did he ever in any way disclaim there was a concocted conspiracy to frame him? No. Never mentioned.
Who's saying this?
This
No?
is Burroughs is saying.
Burroughs.
He took all these notes and he's
Yeah.
saying he never mentioned a conspiracy.
No.
Pete's like, the fuck?
Yeah. What the fuck?
Were you able to confirm allegations of corruption? No. You know why? Because they never looked into it.
Yeah.
So if I say this guy's corrupt, and I got 5 people that will say they were there when he brought the money, you got to go talk to them. You can check the records from the hotel. You can check everything. If you're Mueller, you don't follow that up. Why
Right.
would
You
I
don't
follow
want
that?
to.
I
And there's a
told you,
paper trail.
I got my murderers. I everything. I'm
Right,
not
case closed.
following leads that point to the FBI being involved. I can't follow that. I don't know. We don't even look into that.
Right.
So they start talking about this is Pete's lawyer starts talking about the 302 that was created and how it's not quite accurate and is it exact and well, how did you create it? Because, I'm not sure. My client says it's not accurate. And he says, yeah, I did. He said, did you take notes? He goes, yeah, I took notes. I do. Oh, do you know where the notes are? He's like, did Mueller take notes? I don't know if Mueller took notes. Okay, so you did take, yeah, I believe I did. Okay, do you have the notes? I do not. Where are they now? They should be in the file. Which file? The FBI file. Your Honor, if there are notes, so this guy, Vermeulen, which is Rossini's lawyer, says, whoa, Your Honor, if there's notes in the file, we need to see those notes.
Yeah.
We've asked for the notes. Oh, okay, so guess what? They go and they look in the FBI file, and they're the fucking notes.
They find the notes.
Jesus.
That they've already
From Burroughs?
swore were not there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not there, been purged, there's no records, there's no... Bam, here's your fucking notes. This is sorry. This is funny. This is the U.S. attorney saying this is after they find the notes. Pete said when he brought the notes in and laid them down, and they started going over the notes, and I was like, "Well, what'd he say?" Pete goes, "You know what's funny about that?" I write this in the book where he says, "You know the funny thing is," he goes, "he'd done everything he was supposed to do. Like he'd filed the right motions, he'd said all the right things, he'd done all the right things." He goes, "But when he saw the notes, it was the first time I could tell he believed me."
Yeah.
He was a good attorney. But he was going through the motions. When he looked at the notes, he was like, fuck.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, you assume that the guy's lying to you.
Right.
So anyway, this is one of the U.S. attorneys telling the judge, our internal files were purged years ago. There's nothing else. So that's why they can't find. So the 302 is not synonymous with the notes. It's vastly different.
Right.
And he says, so
Because they left out all the corruption and all that stuff.
leave out everything. So what ends up happening is she says, okay, we're going to let you talk to Mueller. We're going to bring Mueller back. Make sure they don't find the body. And here it says that says not to kill him in San Francisco. Okay. So
And what is that from?
this is from the notes. This is Burroughs' notes.
Okay, this is Burroughs' notes when
they're talking to
Pete's talking to him.
Right. Now keep in mind he's got a bunch of notes, but these are the ones that he leaves out all these things.
He leaves
So-
these out of the 302.
The 302.
Right.
So he never
Got
mentions anything about corruption, $50,000 payoffs,
Right,
or anything.
okay.
The hotel, nothing. Keep in mind too, multiple people are there. All he's got to do is go talk to these people. People
Right.
were there. Mueller doesn't go. No, not interested in talking to them. We can't be generating.
Right.
Can't be
These
generating
notes are here. These notes are here, so it's done. They got him dead to rights, pretty much.
Well, do they? Because
You would think.
Declaration of defendant, Rossini submits. So Rossini here explains what he told Mueller in this whole thing. He ends up taking it. He's on a screen and everything. They talk to him. They only got 2 hours. So they go through the whole thing. And you can read this. This is all on the website.
And this is like right after 9/11, right?
It's a while out. This is a while later. Like this happens in
He said
about 10 years.
2010.
This is 2011 now. By the
Oh,
time they get him on the
shit.
stand.
Okay.
Keep in mind, Mueller's been constantly putting this off.
Yeah.
I have meetings with the
Right.
White House.
Right.
So finally they say, we'll do a conference. They do a conference. It's only going to be 2 hours. So, okay.
They ask basically, yeah. Let's try to summarize that.
Okay, summarize the whole thing is that they start asking him questions. Did they talk about this? Did they talk about this? So this is the one that I love. So he's expecting him to say, he's like, I'm expecting him to say that just what happened.
Yeah. Just say what you talk
Right.
about.
Come clean. He has no choice.
Did Mr. Rossini ever flat out deny he was involved in the murder of Ellenberger or Estes? Did he ever deny it? No. To the contrary, he implicated himself substantially in both of those murders.
What about the notes?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Does
that's
Mueller
I-
not know
Mueller
that they
says
have
that.
Mueller
the notes?
doesn't know they found the notes.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying right here because they ask him, "Did you review this? No. Did you
Right.
review this? No. We sent you this. Did you? No. Did you?" He's like, "All I looked at was the 302."
Yeah.
Because he knows because he probably helped craft the 302.
Right.
Right.
course.
Of course. Yeah.
So then they start going through, and if you read it on the thing, and I in the book, and if you read it on the website, which I know we're trying to wrap up. So he ends up saying. He says, "Oh, Rossini downplayed his role substantially. He did this, he did that." Then they start saying, so it starts to become obvious as they're asking the questions about corruption, or were you involved in this? Were you looking at this? Were you looking at this? He starts to realize something's, you start to realize something's up.
Yeah.
It's got to know something. So it's like, then he starts immediately saying, when they start asking about corruption, law enforcement, investigation. Did you look into this? Did you know who this person was? Did you know who this person was? So they start asking about Harrison and Nason, right, and Rossini, preparing him to testify. They start asking about all these different things, and one of the things they start asking is about they're like, why would you go see him? Well, we wanted to make sure that we were going to prosecute the right person.
Right.
Well, you didn't.
Right.
So what he told you was completely contradictory to that. So he says, "Did you review all of the notes?" He's like, "No." Well, how about the law enforcement reports? Did you review those? Law enforcement reports, I reviewed the 302. Did you talk to Agent Burroughs or anyone under this? He says, "Not that I recall." So you haven't talked to anybody.
Right.
He's in Washington. These guys aren't called. You can't call the FBI director. It doesn't matter who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Unless you're the president. And nobody thinks anything's wrong. A lot of these guys are just going about their normal day.
Right, right.
They don't realize this guy's going to get on the stand and say all this fucked up shit. So when you went to talk to Rossini, do you recall, Farcione, Barrera, or Blum, and about the investigation? He says, I'm not certain. See what I'm saying? Now he's starting, I'm not certain.
It's been too long. I can't remember.
Can't recall. He starts doing all that shit. I can't recall. What about Farcione? What about this, the case? Not that I'm not saying, So he starts fumbling. My favorite part is when he starts to kind of get him into a jam.
He says, I don't recall,
He says it 100. I don't recall. At this present time, I do not recall what I was thinking or in my mind at the time. He's like, do you remember reading this where they were saying it was about corruption? They were talking about, they were focusing in on corruption and this. He says, they said, do you recall at this point having read that or not? He said, I don't recall, but I can tell you I adamantly disagree. Mueller basically snaps, a police officer did not pull the trigger or kill. And he cuts him off. He's like, I'm not saying he did. He pulls out the handwritten notes. And they start going over the handwritten notes.
Who starts pulling? The lawyer?
The lawyer.
Yeah.
Rossini's lawyer.
Yeah.
And he starts to show him the notes.
Shows him to Mueller.
And then he just fucking turns into, listen, I don't remember nothing. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
Did you discuss this?
1, 2, 3, 4,
recall. I could have. Then it becomes I could have. I don't have. I don't recall today. If it's in Bruce's 302, we did.
Right.
He keeps going back to the 302
Because that looks good.
because
Right.
he knows. Well, of course he crafted
He's safe
it.
there.
Yep.
If they crafted it, and we know
the
that's
302
that's
is
my
safe.
safe
Right.
place.
Yep.
It's perfect.
Right. That's all I read.
Yep.
So he starts talking about testimony. He's like, if you read the whole thing, everything that Rossini said was correct. And he's really, really trying to back out of the whole thing. And so it just becomes a whole bunch of, I don't recall, I don't know. Well, what about this note? What about this? He's like, I don't know what was in Bruce's mind when he wrote that. I don't recall. What did you do after Rossini told you all this? Did you launch any investigation at all? You went to Leavenworth and the guy just told you that the FBI officer is the one that basically, officer or,
Agent, whatever.
yeah, they conspired to help commit this murder, or that they leaked the information. Did you look into that at all? And he's like, well, we may have. It's possible. We could have. Because he knows it doesn't look good if I didn't follow that up.
Yeah.
Well, we already know Burroughs said in his transcript we didn't look into any of that. Because he's saying that didn't even happen. He's saying now we know it happened. Did you look into it? And he's like, well, we could have, maybe, possibly. There may have been a separate investigation. No, we're talking about this investigation. I don't recall. I don't know. It's It's very probable it occurred. So they go on and on. I mean, it goes on and on. And in the end, it reverts to him just saying, I don't recall. I don't recall.
Right.
I don't know. I don't recall. I don't recall. And and if you read the whole thing, and I know we can't read the whole thing. I know it's ridiculous. It ain't good.
Yeah.
No.
And this is a condensed version. Keep in mind, this is 136 pages, almost all Mueller saying, I don't recall, unless you say something bad about an FBI agent, and then he says, that is absolutely untrue.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's notes from his meeting with Pete that basically contradict everything that he's saying.
Everything he's saying, they've got notes that say, yeah, exactly. There were payoffs. There was murders. Farcione saying we're not to murder him here. Make sure they don't find the body. Didn't even look into it.
50 grand here.
Doesn't even look into it. And this is where.
So after the 2 hours is up, then what happened? Like, what happens after this proceeding is over?
He gets resentenced. The judge knocks it down to he goes from 40 years to 36 to 35 years. So it's 40 to 35.
Off.
Knock 5 off. Fuck.
It's nothing.
So Pete appeals it. He gets
again.
He appeals it. They say, the appellate court says, we're going to let you talk to this guy. We're going to let you bring Mueller back untimed, as long as it takes. So that's one of the things they win. You can't limit them.
Yeah.
So his attorney the new attorney's like, look, they call up the Wilson Leone.
What is this, like his third attorney?
Yeah. So they call up the U.S. attorney and they say, look, we're bringing Mueller back. He goes, and I'm gonna keep him on the fucking stand a couple days now. Really dig in hard. So
yeah.
the guy's like, all right, listen, calm down. Let's work this out. Let's work this out. So they end up eventually realizing that this is it. We're done. They're gonna bring Mueller back. They've got the notes. So the U.S. attorney comes back, and Pete said he was really irritated because he's like, I really wanted Mueller to get back on the stand, but they basically file a stipulation. The government concedes that what Mueller said was inaccurate, and they don't say lie.
Yeah.
He materially misrepresented the facts of the case, that kind of bullshit. So basically, that what he said was inconsistent with the notes, inconsistent with what actually happened. And it talks about, so they concede a whole bunch of stuff, and they agree that everything that Pete said that he denied it. He denied that he had done all that, that he conspired to do anything to kill anybody, that he talked about. They basically concede to everything that actually happened. They bring Pete back again and put him in front of the court again. Once again, the U.S. attorneys come in. They basically misrepresent what actually happened, and they try and confuse the issues, and they say it's all Pete's fault because he was a leader organizer, blah, 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 blah. It's all him. And he gets sentenced again. I think this time it drops to 34 years. They give him 34
They knock a year
years?
off.
I think they give him 34 years or something like that. The two guys that committed the murders ate Thanksgiving with their families.
Yeah.
Right.
Pete had a holiday meal in the fucking chow hall.
Right.
His mother came to see him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, your mother drives an hour and a half, 2 hours to come see you. It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's fucked up. And all them guys know it, that he didn't do it.
Right. And here's the thing. And so the people that actually, the FBI agents and the informant and the people that actually concocted the whole murder and the frame up, these guys are at home with their families.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And and Mueller getting on the stand and saying some bullshit. If you read the book, it clarifies it really well, where he's just complete. It's just bullshit. He didn't know the notes existed. He's ready to fucking bury Rossini. He could have cut him fucking loose. He could have said, this man did an amazing job. You need to cut it. He could have right then said, you got to cut his sentence. He really helped us. He this, he that. I mean, he could have pushed it. Instead, he did the opposite. Keep him in fucking prison. In the back of the book, I say he's being released in, it's October. I think it's October 2025.
Okay.
Not 24. Might be 24. I'll have to check.
Okay.
Might be 24. So yeah, October 2024. Man, what a! I mean,
Jesus.
And he's already done 20-something years.
Yeah, goddamn.
It's
right.
That's fucked.
His mom comes to see him like every 2 weeks, just like my mom used to come. We used to see each other all the time.
How old is he?
Pete's 50.
He's 50 now.
He was exactly my age.
Wow.
So yeah. So I mean, it's definitely And here's the whole thing. Don't even believe me. Just look at the evidence. Read the book. Look at the evidence. You don't have to believe me. I'm just some scumbag. I have no problem with you saying, "Oh, I don't fucking believe it." Okay,
right.
Great. Don't believe me.
Yeah.
Read the book.
The facts are there.
It's not even a big book.
Yeah.
It's an abridgment of a larger book. It's like 110 pages. It's a joke. There's footnotes. They all correlate with the exhibits. So that's where I'm at. And keep in mind, things could go bad for me. I could get violated. Maybe for all I know, they may come after me. We were talking about getting killed.
Yeah.
So anyway, definitely.
Don't come after us, please.
Yeah.